German abstract artist Robert Neuman. And he now has a show at the John Raimondi Gallery in Charlestown. This is showing his paintings from 1951 to 2004, which he has done a lot of painting. In the meantime, he was a Fulbright scholar, he had a Guggenheim Fellowship, he has done many things, and one has to come here to see the summation of all his works. Tell us, Robert, you studied under Max Beckman, you studied under Willi Baumeister, many others. What were the major influences in your painting? Your paintings show a great development here.
Yes, I think my paintings are a mix of what you call the West Coast style and European tendencies, because I was in Europe for 2 years in Germany and
you spent time
Spain.
on the West Coast, right?
Yeah, that's right. I went to school in San Francisco in what they call the École de Pacifique is very different from New York City, and they're a little bit in competition, the artists are. And I liked very much the School of Painting in California, Northern California.
Well, exciting things were happening after the Second World War, in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. I mean, these were very volatile times. Walk us through what was happening to Robert Neuman.
At that time, you mean?
Yes.
Well, I came there from the Rocky Mountains where I was born, and there was not a museum or a gallery in the whole state. And eventually,
oh, come on, there had to be
well,
a
here.
museum in the whole state.
But the Rocky Mountains are a pretty remote place, and that's Lewis and Clark walk not too far from where I was born. And but when I went to California, I saw people like Clifford Steele and Richard Diebenkorn and David Park and some of those people, and I didn't understand it. And I thought, what are these people? What are they doing? And I thought you should have to paint, you know, maybe flowers or sailboat.
You were still in realism.
Well, I was just going into art school from the state of Idaho, and I was told you had to make a living. If I went to art school, I should find a way to make a living. And I studied commercial art, but I didn't like it. And so I've made a living as a professor at Harvard, and also at Brown University and State University.
Tell us about studying with under Max Beckman.
I studied under Max Beckman at Mills College in Oakland, California, and they had a summer program, a coeducational summer program, and they had people like Kuniyoshi, Leger, Max Beckman.
All these people coming in, and
each one had a summer, and so I would.
Were you there when Kuniyoshi was there?
No, I was. I liked Max Beckman's work. I was there in the area, but I wasn't enrolled there. But I liked Max Beckman's paintings very much, and so I was very pleased to be allowed in his class. We had a very small class, and he couldn't speak much English, and his wife Peppy was there, the one he painted so many times with the little dog over her arm, and she could
in your
speak
paintings, how did Beckman influence you? In color, in tone, substance, style, tone?
I think a great deal of the influence comes from my part admiration for him, that he could make paintings like he did. And I never considered myself expert, but I did study him quite a bit, and he looked at my paintings very much, but he comes from a different background than I did, and I didn't have to flee the Nazis for years like he did, and lose paintings and everything else. But and I don't know that he understood my paintings, and I was just a student, so well, there's no
But
reason
you
he should have.
like to use vibrant colors.
Yeah,
I've seen. I mean, you really
very
do.
much.
Let's go to the lame deer, greasy grass here.
Yes.
Dear God, I mean, that is oranges, yellows. I mean, that just bounces out at you.
Yes. People often say, regardless of what period of my work that they're looking at. It's over and over again, I hear it. They look at the painting, and if they like it or dislike it or whatever, but they say, nearly always they say, the color is very good. That's repeated by strangers I never saw before and everything. My sense of color seems to be
very bold.
Bold,
And
also,
I mean, this brings an energy to the painting.
Oh yeah, yeah. An artist friend of mine heard me chatting with somebody, and I said, color must be 50% of painting. And my friend, who's an artist also, he said, let's try 80. Because that's how strong.
Now, what about Willi Baumeister? You studied under him in Europe.
Well, I studied in Stuttgart with him. We were the first Fulbrights to go to Germany after the war. There were still bomb holes in the streets and everything. And he was forbidden to paint by Hitler, see, and they came and checked his brushes and things, but he was making silk screens in another town where they didn't know he went over there. And but he couldn't make any paintings. So when the war was over, the youth in Germany wanted very much to find out what had happened in the world, culture-wise, after the war or during the war. And they never heard of Jackson Pollock. They never heard of Franz Klein.
But he had made these prints and they had been hidden?
Yes, he hid them in the silkscreen factory where he made them until after the war. And so he was known, was very popular because he and Fritz Winter were the primary German artists to start the youth again after they got rid of Hitler. See?
Okay, let's talk about the Winter Storm Schoodic.
I spend a good deal of time up in Mount Desert Island in Maine, and I work on watercolors and so forth there. But in the winter time, it's impossible to go to a certain place. It's called Schoodic Point, and it's a peninsula sticks out in the raw ocean, and they close the roads because it's so bad. The storms and ice and piling up of snow and everything else, falling down trees. And so I often wondered how it was in the winter because you can't go out there to see. And so I walked out there a few times and got an idea. And plus winter is winter in Maine, no matter where you are, I guess. And so therefore I worked for several years on this painting, Winter Storm Schoodic, trying to think of what it was like out there. It's such a beautiful place.
Well, you've got the coolness in the colors, the white and the blue, but you can't restrain yourself from putting in a dash of red. I mean, there is that Neuman touch. Let's go to the Ship to Paradise. Tell me about that.
This is the last. The Ship to Paradise compositions are graphic. There are no oil paintings. They're on paper, mostly etchings. This is an etching over here on the wall. It's a sizable one. But then I hand worked it afterwards with watercolor and pen and ink and pastels and various things. And that made it unique because there's only one print like this in the world.
So this is a number one of number one.
Number one of number one. That's what it is.
Do you like in the mediums? Do you have any preference of oils, graphics, or illustrations for books?
No.
Because you've done a lot of that.
Yeah, I'm an oil painter, but I did spend 4 years in art school studying what they called it commercial art then. Now we call it graphic design. But what that time you do it by hand, now you do it on a computer. It's very different.
Robert, this is called the Black Rose, and this is so different from the rest of your paintings. Would you explain the rose concept here?
Yes, I wanted to express an image without an outline to it. So often in the history of art, everything is drawn with outlines and colored on later. So I decided to make a blue rose, a flesh rose, a black rose, 2 or 3 gray roses, and each canvas is one color. This is 6 foot square in solid black, but you still can see the rose. The rose takes the space of the entire canvas. The rose.
Well, it's very organic, starting right from here and
exactly.
going up to the top.
Exactly, and I had to figure out a way where you could see the rose without changing the colors, because this one's going to be all black and another one's all blue. So I decided to do it in a tactile fashion. So I used black pigment, opaque black pigment, matte black, and restricted that pretty much to the rose itself. And then the other space is much flatter. So I used, instead of changing colors, I just changed the tactile surface of the painting. And it's amazing when there's a light in the room striking the painting, the impasto of the pigment catches the light and helps to portray the rose.
Well, the three-dimensional thing here and the flow is just absolutely marvelous.
Yeah.
Not only does it feel like a rose, but it feels like a river flowing upward,
Yes.
Robert. Our guest today has been Robert Neuman, and his show is over at the John Raimondi Gallery, and that's 80 City Square, Charlestown, and it's going to be here until the middle of January. It's a show not to be missed. Thank you so much, Robert.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.